Hey there, Pokefans. Welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Matt, and this is not going to be your typical video. Actually, we're going to do the Portland Regional breakdown. I do apologize that I didn't really post a whole lot on Sunday, and it's taken me a little bit to get this video out as well. I just had to decompress because there was a lot to do on Saturday. Lost a lot of time on Friday. I was going to get a lot of stuff done so that you guys had stuff for the weekend, but everything just took up a lot of time. Not particularly like on Pokemon International Company's fault. It's just my own. So I do apologize for that and not being able to time manage as much as I would like to. But I cannot say that I didn't have a good time. I had a great time. I met so many people out there from different parts of the country. I met someone from Boise, Idaho, someone from Wisconsin, some other people that were like out of town as well, that was like in California, and they just drove up. And like there is my first opponent, his parents drove him and his brother up here from, I think, Little Bear. I think that's what it's called. It's on the other, it's like an hour away from Los Angeles. And they drove all the way from there up here to compete in this regional. And I gotta say, they did really, really well. Like Robbie, and I don't know what his little brother did, but Robbie, who was my first opponent, which I got to meet, did extremely well in the tournament. I'm not gonna give you his match stuff, but it was really, really cool to meet so many people from around. They've never been to a regional before, so this was like his first, like a lot of their first times, which is great. And it's my second, and even this was completely draining. So I want to first say that during the times when we're not playing, we did have a little bit of downtime, but we didn't have a lunch either. So from last year, I had learned to pack light, and I did. I had like a bottle of water that was kind of like a big jug, some finger food, and I brought Snorlax because I wanted to bring him because I didn't do that last year. And I gotta say, even that was still too much. But with no lunch, and I needed to bring in snacks to be able to eat on the go, we did have ample time to grab a little bit of food, a little bit of drink, so that no one was hungry or dehydrated to where we couldn't compete. But it was still really, really fast paced. I saw some of the commentators there, but I was not able to introduce myself and talk to them, mainly because I got shy, because these are the people that I've watching for years, and I would love to be able to sit down and talk to them for a little bit. But again, I'm just not there yet. I would love to, but I'm not there yet. So this video is just about my experiences in the Portland Regional and to go over some details of what I've learned over my matches of 9 rounds of Swiss. So without further ado, let's get into it. The team that I brought in was the Season 13 team with the Tornadus Urshifu, Chien-Pao Dragonite, Gholdengo Ogerpon. Now, the main strategy that I had was I brought in 2 functional cores that a lot of players would have to get through to be able to withstand. And we saw that even in the final days of the tournament. So they still had Dragonites, they still had Chien-Paos, and seemed like the crowd favorite for Ogerpons was water. And even in the notes that I got from my buddy and I going, water Ogerpon was used quite a bit. Out of 9 rounds between the two of us, we saw 5 water Ogerpons, which means 56% of the players that we played against had that. We also saw like 6 players out of 9 rounds use Fluttermane, and we had 7 players use Incineroar out of 9 rounds. And that's just day 1. Right, there's so much more on that list, and I'll go through it later. But out of the 9 rounds of Swiss, I think I had the less bracket than he did, because there were some Pokemon that I haven't even seen that he got to see an abundance of, but he did have a better win-loss record than I did. While I went 2-7, he went 4-5. It's the same as it was in Sacramento when he went down there for the regional. And he did well. He didn't submit his team until like 6:30 or 6:50 in the morning. That we're supposed to have the team submitted by 7:30. And something that happened during the regional that I thought was weird, we had to get a rental code, and so we submitted our team before first round started. We had to get a half sheet of paper that was kind of like what they gave us for our original tournament sheets of paper, and we officially got like the rental code, which I even still have mine here. So if you guys want that, let me know down in the comments and I will post that for you guys to watch. But I walked in with a proven core that did extremely well. Tornadus Urshifu, Rapid Strike especially, did extremely well in previous tournaments up to this point. Chien-Pao Dragonite did extremely well to tournaments up to this point, and we saw a ton of those in this tournament as well. Now, when they brought out Regulation F and the new DLC Pokemon and released the 1,000-something Pokemon in the world that everyone can use, literally a couple of days before the event, I had two options to me. I can either try to calc for everything or not worry about it and just try to play as I go. With every competitor that you talk to, you have to really decide what you want to focus on more. And you always have to worry about who's going to be in front of you. Like, we can plan for a stringent team of like trick room counters, right? But it doesn't mean anything if you have someone that brings in Weezing that shuts down your entire strategy. So that's what my focus was. I could not effectively calc or every possibility out there. Instead, I just focused on what I could and could not do with the knowledge that I have today. Knowing what happened in previous regionals, I focused on getting things together for what people could bring for a comfortable level of knowing that this Pokemon did well. I will bring this Pokemon instead of trying to use something that's new. I do have a couple of matches where people did bring in new things, and unfortunately, they were able to beat me with those new things. But it wasn't because I didn't have the knowledge, it was because of the type of matchups that came out from that. I'll explain a little bit later. My whole thought process is that people are going to use the same 4 to 6 Pokemon that have done well in the previous tournaments, like Rillaboom, Heatran, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, Tornadus, and Urshifu. And I didn't think anyone else was going to change from that. And there are some aspects where that was the case. It has not changed. And even then, some had changed. One of those changes was Iron Crown and Raging Bolt. Both negate Urshifu. Both of them do not take any damage from water attacks. So it became really, really hard to bring out my best attacker in the game to just not do anything altogether. And the answers to possibly those Pokemon was my Ogerpon, which could not counter more than once, if anything. So it was really, really interesting to see how everything was going to play out. The majority of my matches, I just had bad matchups. Like, quite literally, no matter if I Terra'd, no matter if I Tailwinded, no matter if I Taunted, I had terrible matchups. And because of that, it had caused me to have a record of 2-7. Now, that's just my thing. I believe that my Pokemon did the best of their ability. I was just not happy with my performance, but I still learned something at the end, and I still did my best with what I've got. Out of 9 matches total, I have a record of 4 matches of getting to round 3s and just barely losing those. I was swept 3 times, and I swept 2 people. And what I mean by that is that I went 2-0. They didn't knock out a Pokemon, or when they did knock out a Pokemon, I still had people in the back to be able to do things with. And then pivoting after that was a critical role that I'm not used to doing because I'm not used to playing best of 3s. And because I'm not used to that, it made it very hard for me to realize what I needed to do. So that was the majority of what I was learning in this tournament. My tournament team, with the 2 cores that respectively does well, but my other 2 that was supposed to be like the supporters or main-in switch-ins were probably not the best choices that I could use. Gholdengo was a good counter to fairy-type Pokemon like Heatran when they Terra-Fairied, Fluttermanes because they're obviously really, really fast. But I had to use my Terra on Gholdengo if I ever brought him, because otherwise he was gonna lose to almost any shadow attack or ghost attack or dark attack that came in front of him. Not a lot of people use knockoff, which was pretty interesting, but at the same time, I don't think it really mattered too much. And my last Pokemon was Ogerpon himself, but I did the fire variant because I wanted to make sure that I had a counter for Chien-Pao. I wanted to counter to Rillabooms. I wanted to be able to hit Heatran's with Mold Breaker, and I wanted to be able to counter water type Pokemon like Amoonguses that would use Terra Water, Milotics. There is Iron Crowns. I want the counter for them specifically so that I don't have to worry about it. And for the most part, that was okay. And my Terra targets were never Fire Ogerpon. I could have done that and got the +1 attack, but because of season 13, I realized having the dual typing was probably more beneficial to me than having the single typing with the +1 whatever stat value that I could get. Doesn't mean that they're never going to be Terra'd. It just means that they're going to be unlikely Terra'd unless I have to, and that is only because of the matchups that's in front of me. In all 9 rounds, or at least 9 matches, I never went to time. We were done pretty early, and it was really hard fought. The 4 games that I went all 3 rounds, I was literally down to 1 Pokemon every single time. Against Robbie, he brought Chien-Pao, Amoonguss, Milotic, Chi-Yu, Dragonite, and Fluttermane. Was really cool matches, and it literally came down to pivoting to knocking out my Urshifu, because I did Terra him almost immediately to put pressure onto the Fluttermane and anyone that was behind him, because I needed to be able to exert dominance. But because of Amoonguss, he was able to redirect my attacks and I couldn't do anything. In 1 round, I forgot that Rage Powder went higher up than Taunt. So even though that he Rage Powdered, I still was targeting Amoonguss with my attack, but with Taunt, but then my attack followed up too, and instead of protecting, I went right into a Rocky Helmet Amoonguss that just did a ton of damage to my own Urshifu, and that was terrible. And I couldn't stop it either. Like, I tried, but I just couldn't. There was no way to get out of it. In the second, Robbie won, by the way. Second round, I played against someone named Andrew, who had Fluttermane, Alolan Muck, Meowstic, Ursaluna, Ninetales, and Shrifty. Now, Ninetales has Drought, a really good thing, and Shrifty is gonna have Chlorophyll, and that's what he had on his sheet. He also had Fake Out, Sucker Punch, and Tailwind. So this guy was going to get anything off that he wanted to. I believe he had either, I think it was Solar Blade that he had, but it was really tough to deal with. I was able to almost take game 1, but I wasn't because of the fact of lack of trying, but I almost took game 2 specifically because he brought in Ursaluna. Now, Meowstic usually sets up Trick Room, but he wasn't able to set up Trick Room because I taunted him and he didn't have anything to deny me. He didn't Terra it, he didn't do anything. I pretty much took it out as soon as he came onto the field. But it was down to my Dragonite, which was my Terra target, or not my Terra target, I'm sorry, versus his Ursaluna, which was a Terra target, and it was Terra normal. So what almost made to be a win for me was a loss. I did extreme speed into his Terra target and left him with 2 HP. And I was like, oh, come on, game, just give that to me so that we can go into game 3. Andrew barely won. He did Blood Moon me in the face to get the KO, and I was lucky enough to be able to talk to him while he turned in the sheet to kind of get some idea of how he built the team. And that was another thing that I was going to try this year. I wanted to connect more with the community. I wanted to try to talk to players and see what inspired them to create these teams and what they were going for, to not only learn from myself, but just to kind of get that connection with other players. And I believe that I had succeeded in doing so. I had inspired someone named Herbert, who was in my 3rd round, because I told him some of the things that he might not have known in Pokemon, in which there was a couple things he didn't. And I wanted to make friends and be able to be there for people if they had any questions. I don't want to be the person's like, hey, I know everything about Pokemon, because I'm learning stuff too. But I also wanted to be in this giant circle of competitors and Go players and just learning all together. It's fun having people around just to talk instead of always competing and having no one in your corner. Having a community around you is so much better, because then you can learn how to make better decisions, not only for the Pokemon that you choose, but for what you're expecting other people that could play. Having someone else that's going to be talking to, it's like cooking. You want to get better as a cook, you cook with other people so they teach you new recipes, ingredients, why they do these things, and grow your taste. And I believe having a community of Pokemon team builders or players that can also help you with that and kind of help you understand why their decisions are this and go forward in the future. Herbert didn't understand a couple of aspects in the game. He just recently started playing. I believe he's also local or possibly from California. I don't remember. So Herbert, if you're listening to this, I apologize, man. It's not, I don't want to forget, but at the same time, I forgot. I apologize. But he didn't understand that burn Pokemon drops their attack by half, which was really cool because he's like, oh my God, I didn't know that. It's like, yeah. And if you're a grass type Pokemon, you can ignore Rage Powder or even Spore because those don't affect other Pokemon. He didn't understand that dark types ignore pranksters. And so I was telling him like, I had to worry about you doing something with, I think he had Whimsicott. Yes, he did. So he had Urshifu, Single Strike, Whimsicott, Dragonite, Chien-Pao, Milotic, and Entei. I told him because his Whimsicott was dark type, but it's like, I had to make sure that you weren't going to Terra Dark because I couldn't affect your Whimsicott, but I also had to Terra Dark my Pokemon so that I didn't get affected by your stuff too. Like Encore wouldn't affect. He's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah. So if you have a priority move from a Pokemon that has Prankster, it doesn't affect the dark types because it kind of is like, to them, they kind of know that they're being tricked. So priority moves from pranksters don't work. So there's some aspects of the game he didn't know, and it kind of lit a light bulb in his head. And it was really, really cool to witness that. Him and I went 3 rounds, and again, he won, but it was a really cool match. It was really hard fought, so I can't really say anything after that. 4th round with against another Matthew, which apparently had gone against 3 other Matthews before meeting me, so that was dope. But he had a really original team, and so I wanted to sit down and talk to him about it. And he came in with a Hisuian Goodra, Galarian Zapdos, Skeledirge, Kleavor, Meowscarada, and Raichu, or Alolan Raichu. Unfortunately, when I talked to him about his team, he wasn't really inspired by a lot of things. His competitive scene is really, really small and didn't realize that he could play with simulated teams. So, and I mean simulated like Pokemon Showdown, and he wasn't able to like calc what everyone could be playing in this tournament. So I kind of felt bad because like this guy was a true beginner walking into a tournament that was like, I don't want to say labeled for experts, but we're all pretty experienced in the game. And don't take that as me downplaying you guys, because you guys have every right to be there. But if you play something competitively and you just don't know something, you'll learn from the tournaments, and then you might feel like an idiot, but it was a good learning curve. And I think that's what was best for Matthew here, is then he can learn what to do for next time, which is perfect. It's what I would like if he was someone that was playing under me and stuff. So I appreciated that, and it was an easy match for me. I don't want to say it that way, but that's the best way that I could say it. His team was really, really interesting. I don't know if they did anything. I only really had to bring out my starter Pokemon, and then that was it, really. So that was cool. But I did find out his favorite Pokemon is Kleavor, so that's awesome. And Matthew, if you ever come across this video, don't get too discouraged. Keep on trying. Now that you know where to find some stuff, I'm sure that you'll come in super strong and prepared. Like he didn't know about Pikalytics or like Pokemon Showdown and stuff like that. So I told him, it's like, hey, it's like, feel free, like, man, just flag me down if you want some of these like links and stuff. Like, it will change your entire outlook on how things go. Like, I even knew that there was something for Pokemon Showdown for like damage calcs that had everything updated and stuff. And it's like, as soon as I found that out, I was like, oh my God, that's great. So that was cool. Francisco was my 5th match, and this is one I lost. I almost won the 2nd round, and it literally came down to a mix switch that I should have done. So here's his Pokemon. First of all, he brought in Rillaboom, Amoonguss, Farigiraf, Incineroar, Primarina, and Landorus Incarnate. Landorus Incarnate is going to be one of the Pokemon that comes in quite a bit. And because of his now like best earth power damage that he could give, and no Sludge Bomb, and sometimes if not most times, Terra Poison, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this now. And Sheer Force Life Orb just says yeah to most things. It's kind of hard to beat him, but I digress. He won match 1, and I was on my way to winning match 2. Match 2 had a Terra Dragonite, so Terra Normal Dragonite that can use extreme speed. Next to him was Ogerpon. The idea was to swap out Dragonite and use Urshifu, whose last Pokemon I had in the back, to be fodder to take an attack. He just placed down Landorus and he had Incineroar. Both Pokemon were incredibly weak. All I had to do was swap Dragonite and protect with Ogerpon. The game was almost over at that point. What happened was I swapped Ogerpon, knocked out Incineroar, but his Sandsteer knocked out both Dragonite and Urshifu. And because his Landorus was faster than mine, I couldn't extreme speed the next turn to knock out Landorus. And because of that misplay, I had an Ogerpon that was injured against a Landorus that was faster than 163 base speed and should be like 164. And I couldn't get further than that. One mistake cost me one whole match, and it almost went to game 3. But he did sweep me, so I couldn't do anything about that. Match 6, I fought against the local named Troy. First time I met the dude. This match was incredibly fun. It was insane. It was like the old style WrestleMania matches where people just keep getting up. They just like ham up the show and made people just, enjoy it so much more. But yeah. Whatever could go wrong did go wrong. I got frozen for one turn and then thought out immediately just to knock out someone else. I got every single proc from Bleak Wind Storm to knock out or even like slow his other Pokemon. I used Ice Spinner on Indeedee once, which here's his team. We got Iron Crown, Raging Bolt, Landorus, which is incarnate form, Chi-Yu, Indeedee, and Latias. I was able to do all of this and make it to a match 3. Now, because I knew they had Iron Crown and Indeedee, I was expecting Expanding Force. He used that twice, but didn't bring it the last form or the last game. I had dealt with it twice before, so he was just kind of like, I don't really want to do that again. But because I was so afraid of it, I Terra'd Tornadus way too often. I was like, you know what? Screw this match. I'm just gonna do this for the memes and have a good time at it. Because this match was so outrageous that our entire table was looking at us, wonder what we were doing the entire time. Like they weren't disgusted that we were talking. They were excited because it sounded like we were like the champions battling against each other for something awful. Like it wasn't even that great, but it was like we wanted to get up and go on streams just so you guys could see it, and it was nuts. I wish I could have recorded it, but unfortunately we're not able to record our stuff. So yeah, he won. Great guy. It was so fun. And round 7, round 7. I do apologize. Met up another local that I did not remember. He remembered me, and I felt bad because I didn't remember him. So Nathan, if you listen to this, sorry again, man. I'll do better to remember who you were. But he is a local in the area. He goes to Gambits, and if you guys have ever been there, it's a really cool place. Not something that I could always go to on Saturdays because I do work swing, and I do sacrifice Saturdays to get some stuff done. But I'm gonna try to do my best to go and be more consistent in that scene from here on out. But his team was Landorus, Furgiraffe, Whimsicott, Iron Hands, Heatran, and Walking Wake. This team was what I was looking at and seeing in the future. His Landorus is Therian, by the way. So this is the team that I expected to see, and obviously he just outplayed me. I wasn't able to get anything done on his side of the field at all. He swept me pretty fast. It didn't seem like there was any trouble for him whatsoever. I did have a really good first game, but I did not do well on game 2. Like I had knocked out 2 of his Pokemon in game 1, but game 2 he came out with everything and I just couldn't keep up. There was nothing I could have done. For round 8, I have Heather. Now Heather is an outer towner, so the team that they brought in was very similar to mine. And I asked them how their scene was, where they were from, and they said it was really, really small. So like Heather, I had built a very similar team. It was the mirror. So when I had, Tornadus, Urshifu, Qianpao, Dragonite, Golden Go, and Ogerpon, they had Arcanine, Ogerpon, which was water, Urshifu, which is rapid, but they had brought in Iron Hands, Tornadus, and Golden Go. So literally the same Pokemon except for 2 and 1 change. The matches went extremely well. I was able to capitalize in a couple of key moments, and I took both games. Now, Heather is no slouch. Heather was a really good player, and I asked them at the end of the match of what was their inspiration and if I could give them some pointers for their team. Now, because of my previous statement that I don't believe that the Ogerpon should be Terra'd, or at least be the main Terra target, I understand why you would want to do it, but that dual typing is what gives them that edge as well as the ability. In Heather's team, I felt like that was really, really prevalent, right? So Ogerpon water form has water absorb, and that would have been an easy way to take advantage of whether or not that you wanted to get healed by water attacks. And especially if Pokemon like Urshifu is scarfed or banded to where they're locked into one attack, you made it you would force them to always go after you so that they couldn't do anything or swap out. And in this case, in both games, Heather had Terra'd Ogerpon both times, which isn't bad if you're running up against a team with special attackers. The majority of my team are all physical ones, so I don't know if the +1 in special defense is going to make any type of difference. But I also didn't Terra'd my own Ogerpon, which has Wood Hammer. Now, how I have my Ogerpon built, it's able to one-shot most water types without the Terra, and even more so with the Terra. I was able to one-shot, Robbie's Amoonguss with Wood Hammer. I was able to one-shot Milotic with Wood Hammer, and this is no exception to Ogerpon. I don't know if they put any points in defense at all, but what I do know is that I was able to one-shot this Ogerpon every single time. Because they'd taken out the grass typing behind them, from a neutral standpoint, it made it super effective, and then they lost the ability to absorb any type of water attacks. So even if I did a little bit of damage, I still one-shot them regardless because I did too much. So that's what I explained. It's I don't think or feel that Ogerpon should be the main Terra target. It's probably good defensively if you can swing it. But in the cases where you and I battled where we have a mirror match, I think either Arcanine, Golden Go, or even Urshifu should have been your Terra targets. And that is only because they're going to be able to do so much more damage than Ogerpon is here. While you get to follow me and you get the Horn Leech and stuff like that, I can obviously outspeed you because I've got Tailwind up and I'm stopping you by having Qianpao or Dragonite, right? That was how I opened up both games. I opened up Qianpao and Dragonite, and I was able to stop most of their I was able to stop Tornadus the first game, and they opened up Urshifu and Iron Hands, and I then used Stomping Tantrum on Iron Hands and then Sucker Punch into Urshifu, right? And they were able to knock out, Dragonite, but they were not able to knock out Qianpao or Ogerpon, who came in after that, because they brought in Ogerpon after that. They Terra'd. Here comes the Wood Hammer, and that's the game. So against my team, it's not really good to Terra into Ogerpon. And they had an attack called Aqua Jet, which is great on Urshifu, don't get me wrong. But I also feel that attack is also very misguided. It might have priority, but everyone's bringing in Farigiraf or Entity, or even, bring in Gouging Fire with his Bulwark and stuff like that. So you don't want to bring in priority all the time because you're going to end up getting shot in the foot. If they have priority negators, you have one less move that you can use. So that's what I explained to Heather. It's I probably would take that out to maybe put in Protect or something else, maybe Swords Dance or anything else, because if you have Ogerpon that goes, hey, follow me, you can have a setup person next to them and go, hey, I'm going to get my +2 stats because they're going to go after that Ogerpon more than they're going to go after Urshifu. And that's what I think should happen. It's hey, I'm a grass type. I ignore Spore. I ignore Raging Powders. And the only time that you're going to get me to attack you now is that you basically make me attack you by doing follow me. So you kind of lose that advantage if someone did come out with a Sinistcha or an Amoonguss and did all of these things. It's very, very weird, and it feels like it's not as productive, but at the same time, it's about as productive as you can possibly get So in my opinion, I don't think Ogerpon should be Terra'd, especially if it's like an offset like this. But at the same time, I understand why people do. But in Heather's case, I explained maybe that's why I had an easier time playing against their team. But I also had given them the advice that I personally had gone through, which was really interesting. They ran Drain Punch on Urshifu instead of Close Combat, and I battled with that for so long. I'm glad I went for Close Combat instead of Drain Punch. Like, getting HP back is great, but you need to be able to knock people out instead of having people live. And I think Urshifu is on that cusp to where it's like, if I had to pick between this to do a stab or this to do a stab, I would probably do the more damage and then swap them out after that. If I had the choice, right? You could even use like the eject pack, and I think that works with him. If you lower down your own stats, I think it ejects you so that you can come in later on. But then you have no item, you do less damage, but it isn't an idea that everyone can play with. For round 9, oh, this was interesting. Round 9 was against Adriana. Now, Adriana is a really cool person. She came down for the Portland Regional last year, and she was the one that actually knocked me out of the tournament last year too. It was great. She brought in Dusknoir, Magnezone, Mamoswine, Gastrodon, Chandelure, and Heracross. Now, before the match even started, I saw the name and was like, that looks familiar. Why does it look familiar? I get to the table and she kind of looks familiar, but it's like, I'm usually the one that remembers faces, not names. So I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. This is probably not the same person. But as soon as we exchanged team sheets, I saw that her signature was there. And I was like, you are the person I think that you are. And she kind of looks at me and is like, oh, and I was like, okay, you and I played last year and you flinched me to death, I believe. And she said, I knew that you looked kind of familiar, but I didn't want to sound like a creep. And I started laughing. It's like, don't worry about sounding like a creep. Like, the only reason why I know it's you is because of Heracross. Her Heracross, guys, is a Guts Flameorm build that is Terra Rock with Rock Slide. Now, Rock Slide does a lot of damage, but the last time I saw her, it teamed up with Great Tusk that was Scarfed, and they both spammed Rock Slides. I couldn't do nothing. So it was really, really interesting to see that she had come back to compete in this tournament as well. And it was really interesting that her and I would get paired at the very end, where I can go 3-6 again, or I can go 2-7. It was a 3-round match, and she took it. She took the first game because she ran Trick Room, and I couldn't get through Trick Room. I took the second game because I stopped Trick Room, and I was able to counter Heracross at any point in time, and I did. As soon as he came out on the field, I was like, no, we're not dealing with that. And third game, they took it because Dusknoir knows Will-O-Wisp, and that hurt Dragonite so much. But that's why I brought in Ogerpon. Ogerpon ignores Will-O-Wisp all the time. It's great. But like most matches go, it went pretty well. She beat me, which is unfortunate. It means I am 0-2 against her. And if she listens to this, I will get you next time. Just putting that out there. I had a lot of fun. It was good seeing you again. And we exchanged Discords. So she was really excited about my Ogerpon set and wanted to try it out. So I sent it to her, and it seemed like she was interested in Chien-Pao as well, because she saw that it was using Life Orb and not Focus Sash like most sets would do. So because of that, I had sent her Chien-Pao as well. And I don't know if she's going to use those, but told her, hey, if I'm on and you want to play, hit me up. Let's play some, talk a little, and go from there. And again, if you're listening to this, still hold to that, and I'll get you next time. I don't know if I'm going to go to the NAIC. I do want to, but only if I can afford it. But if I can't, I'm not going to worry about it. I did incredibly well in some aspects of the tournament, but I also did poorly in other aspects of the tournament. So that's kind of what sucks. I didn't make it to day 2. I was really hoping to, but I didn't. And that's what really sucks to me. So I know it's not a very detailed list of what everyone was like building, but I don't have all the rental codes. You guys will probably see all of that stuff on Victory Road, because all of that information is probably shared to them by the Pokemon Company, and they'll probably post all of our teams up there. So if you guys want my rental code, just let me know down in the comments down below. I will post it. That way you guys can play with it yourself and you guys can let me know how you guys thought. But it's a seasonal 13 team, so it's not like you guys haven't seen it before. There's a couple of things I would have changed, but some of the matchups that I had were just kind of bad matchups. And then I misplayed 1 or 2 times, a lot. Actually, not 1 and 2. I gotta be really accountable for my own actions. I wasn't necessarily tired to where I made like stupid actions, except for Troy. Him and I had a grand old time that I just kind of just said F it and just, I don't want to say through, but I definitely was not playing the way that I should. Such a cool guy. Such a cool guy. He's got an interesting set coming out for Umbreon and I can't wait to see how it goes. Cannot wait to see how it goes. Well, anyways, so that's everything that I have for the first day of the tournament. I did not go day 2. I decided to stay home and relax and decompress everything, which is why you didn't see anything Sunday. And even today's video is going to be out way later than it should, but it is what it is. But I have one less thing to show you, and that is the usage that I saw and my buddy saw as we went together. And we wanted to make sure that we captured everything so that people understood exactly what we were dealing with when we walked in. So here is what we saw. This is a Notion program for people that don't understand how to, use Microsoft Excel. This teaches you like basic stuff, and it's kind of like a lot of drag and drop. So that's what I did here. Incineroar was seen 7 times in 9 matches, giving it a 78%. Fluttermane was seen 6 times. Ogerpon Water was seen 5 times. Chien-Pao 4. Fergraph 4, Landorus Incarnate 4, Tornadus Incarnate 4, Urshifu Rapid Strike 4, Amoonguss 3, Indeedee 3, Milotic 3, Raging Bolt 3, Rillaboom 3, Whimsicott 3. There's a bunch of Pokemon that was in 2. So Chi-Yu, Dragonite, Entei, Golden Go, Iron Crown, Iron Hands, Metagross, Urshifu Single Strike, and Walking Wake was seen twice. And then Annihilate, Arcanine, Arch Duraludon, Chandelure, Dodonzo, Dusknoir, Enamorus, Gastrodon, Goodra, Heatran, Heracross, Hydrapple, Landorus, Therian, Latias, Magnezone, Mamoswine, Meowscarada, Meowstick, Muck, Ninetales, Ogerpon, Primarina, Alolan, Raichu, Roaring Screamtail, Shrifty, Skeletor, Tatsugiri, Terrakion, Ursalina Bloodmoon, Galarian Zapdos, and Bronzong. He was also added, but I didn't get access to all the Pokemon. But there it is. There's the list that we saw for day 1 and 9 total matches played in the best of 3 format. Now that is one mistake that I did not account for. I am not good at best of 3s. I am very good at closed team sheets, so I need to get more practice in best of 3s. And the only way that I can get practice is to schedule times with my friends to do best of 3s and connect with the local community to do more battles with them for the best of 3s. So there is that, and the drive to do that is going to be there soon. But for now, that is all that I have to share for today. So ladies and gentlemen, while this is going to be the end of the video, it's not going to be the end of the journey. I want to thank you all for having the patience with me as I got this list together and comprised my thoughts and feelings about the tournament. I think I did extremely well for my team, but I had still made terrible choices and I need to rectify that. But I'm not going to sacrifice having fun to do that. And that's what I thrive most. I like having fun, and I had a lot of fun. It was draining for 2 days, but I am better for it, smarter, feel much more appreciated of the lesson that I was taught. And that's all that anyone can ask for, really. So with that being said, that's going to be the end of today's video. You guys will have more videos from me throughout the week as we get back into season 14, and the second team is on its way. I'm going to be building that today as well as we're fixing the first team, and I think we're going to go with a rain team next week, because that'll be the 15th. Yep. Next week, we'll start using a rain team that I'm hoping that everyone will like. And it's going to have still a prankster, but we'll see how everyone adjusts to that change. And it might be fun or it might not be fun. We'll see. But until then, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.